What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here from DataDash, and today is June 5th of 2023. Well, folks, I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are, because in today's video, we've got to spend some time to talk about a critical chart that everyone needs to be watching when it comes to Bitcoin's price. We've got to spend some time to talk about not only Bitcoin's lacking momentum here since back in early March, but more importantly, comparing it to its peers and seeing just how abysmal the performance has been over the past couple of months. We've got a lot of things to dive into in today's video. If you guys enjoy the rambling, consider dropping a like, and whether you agree or disagree, I hope you'll stick around towards the end of the video, so hopefully you get something out of it. All right, let's go ahead and kick things off, guys. So I want to start here by talking a little bit about not only Bitcoin's price, which itself here has been basically flat here for the most part since back in mid-March, but on top of that as well, we've been slowly trending down week by week by week on a generally lower trend since back in mid-April, and we are getting incredibly close towards seeing a trend flip on our major momentum indicator. This is the key focus point here that we're looking for, is whether or not we are going to continue moving higher or start to prepare to build a short position. Now, the big thing I want to go ahead and emphasize here is that Bitcoin is in a bit of a rough position, and it's twofold. First off, we need to talk about the microsphere, looking inside just the crypto space as a whole. A lot of the narratives that carry Bitcoin forward against the broader altcoin market and helped it really buck the trend as assets have been kind of in this kind of uncertain, non-trending state over the past couple of months to the past year or so, as we entered into a corrective territory in 2022. The key thing that drove Bitcoin was these theories of the Bitcoin bank run, de-dollarization, all these things that are supposedly going to set demand for Bitcoin. Well, those trends have not shown up to the races here for the past 2 months. And on top of that, it's actually almost coming up here on nearly 3 months of stagnation for Bitcoin's price as we enter into mid-June. So if we don't see something happening soon here, I think we're going to start to see corrective forces play out here on Bitcoin's price. That alone is already starting to demonstrate through price and through the lack of follow through on any narratives that have driven Bitcoin forward. But even if you don't agree with me here when it comes to that narrative, we've got to talk about another element here. It's not just about whether or not Bitcoin is going up or down. A big question we got to ask ourselves is whether or not crypto is going to be the leading asset class. This is where we are different from the vast majority of investors and traders here within the crypto ecosystem. I have a traditional background, self-taught, trading equities, commodities, forex markets. Then I started trading into crypto back in around 2016, 2017, even though I've been following the space since back in 2011. But the key thing we need to understand here is whether or not the secondary question is in play. Is Bitcoin outpacing other markets? Right? Because while we may love crypto ideologically, maybe long-term crypto will be the top performing asset. If you're more of a long-term investor, you've already got your answer to your question, right? In that case, you probably want to position yourself in crypto. But over the next 6-12 months, next year, couple years, will crypto continue to be this parabolic, market-leading asset that's going to outpace other assets? That's a very serious question we got to ask ourselves, guys. We can't get pigeonholed just because we like crypto into thinking that this is the only asset we can trade or invest in. And I have to say, what's been really concerning as of recent is watching the NASDAQ, the broader measurement of technology stocks, thousands of technology stocks, but of course mainly made up by a couple of few giants like Nvidia, Apple, the FANG stocks, so Meta, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, you name it. Those are the names that make up the majority of the NASDAQ. Either way, we have a few select technology names that are easy to find, and they are massively outpacing Bitcoin at the moment. They are continuing to churn higher here off of promises in relation to artificial intelligence. That is the big trend now. Now, I know a lot of people would say, oh, maybe you're a supporter of AI and this and that, but at the end of the day, you think crypto is going to outpace it. Well, that's completely fine if you feel that way. But the reality is right now is that the NASDAQ is at its highest point since back in April 2022. And I'll admit that here, we've been generally cautious, or at least holding off from making any investments. We've been generally leaning towards that bearish camp, that we believe that we're still in a bear market long term. I have to be honest though, this price action is starting to challenge that. We are starting to see momentum here accelerate quite bigly over the past couple of weeks, as we've seen the NASDAQ pop from around 12,300 towards 13,240. Again, pressing it towards its highest point since April of 2022. Now, can Bitcoin say the same here? Well, Not exactly. We saw resistance back in April during this period of time when we visited back towards the range of May, and we are back towards, again, ranges that we have not seen since back in June of 2022. And essentially, we are steadfast approaching where we were back here in August. Main point here is this. We need not look further than the Bitcoin to NASDAQ ratio. This is a way of measuring the broader performance of Bitcoin versus the NASDAQ. Now, it's important to note that with ratios, we don't care so much about the numeric value on the right-hand side. And it's important to note that both assets can be going down, but the ratio can still move up or down. And I'll kind of lean into that here as we're going through our conversation. A ratio is simply measuring whether or not one asset or one index or asset is outpacing the other. So in this case, if the chart is moving higher, like it was here from November of 2022, here towards April of 2023, during this 6-month window, Bitcoin was heavily outpacing the NASDAQ. It went from around a ratio of 1.4 up towards 2.5. And to get a measurement of this, we simply just have to drag a percentage gain. Generally speaking, Bitcoin outpaced the NASDAQ by 75% from those absolute lows. That was a really great recovery and one of the strongest, what we think is relief rallies for Bitcoin that we've ever seen. Only comparable probably, at least in the sense of scale of market cap, to the rally we saw back during the bear market lows of 2018 into 2019. But we need to ask whether or not that's following through, because right now the ratio itself has declined by more than 20%. And it is approaching a critical level here. In fact, many might say that we've already started to break through it. I'm not going to say that just yet here, even though I do lean towards the bearish side here. But if we take a look, this 2-point range is very significant, not just because it's some even number here on the ratio, but because this was the previous range of support back in June of 2021, July of 2021. It was the point where we saw a clear breakthrough to the downside in June of 2022. And ever since that point in time, up until March of 2023, this was resistance time and time again where price got shot down. And if we do not hold this range, if we continue to collapse below it, this will be seen by many traders as a massive deviation, essentially a short-term distribution period after following the relief rally, where it again outpaced the NASDAQ in the short term, but was utilized as a point of taking advantage of retail euphoria, false narratives, that eventually leads price to distribute back down to the downside and lead towards lower prices. And this leads us into the question of whether or not we're going to get that third low. If we are going to see us come down here towards a much lower Bitcoin to NASDAQ ratio, taking back many years worth of gains against the broader stock indices in the technology sector. This is a question we got to ask ourselves, folks, and it not only leads us towards asking the question of what asset's going to be the top performing one, but more importantly, if the NASDAQ starts to underperform and it starts to go back down and all these hopes around AI and the higher PE multiples that people are paying at the moment start to correct and get back to reality, and Bitcoin can't start outpacing here on the NASDAQ ratio, does it seem really crazy to think that we're going to come down and set a third lower low here in this bear market? That we are still in a long-term corrective phase following the continued contraction in the money supply, following continued tightening, following broader weakness in asset markets, a less risk-on nature for investors? That is a question we've got to ask ourselves here. And I got to be honest with you guys, that's the camp I'm leading in towards. And that's why I still am not feeling any FOMO here, right? Bitcoin has been, for one, pushing sideways and slightly downward since back here in mid-March. I don't see any reason to FOMO here, especially when Bitcoin's price is trading at a much larger premium than where it was back here in November, from 15,000 or roughly 16,000 up towards 26K, right? Pay a 10K premium if you're buying into the Bitcoin bull market narrative at this point. But on top of that as well, it's not the leading asset. Not to mention, crypto as a whole is not the leading asset class just yet. It is incredibly difficult right now to find market leaders, those that are actually outpacing broader asset classes. So for example, I can give one here. This is something that I've been keeping my eye on here. And again, it's similar here towards the next potential AI narrative, and that's Apple's AR headset. And we've got to ask ourselves whether or not this could be potentially the next big narrative. Because if we look across the board at stocks, we look across the board at crypto, there are only a few key plays that are really leading the way forward, that are really making major leaps and bounds here. And when we take a look at the crypto sector, as we've seen with crypto AI plays, those were great momentum trades that came up. We also should be looking here at metaverse or AR and VR, augmented reality or virtual reality plays within the crypto space. That's the only kind of things that I'm interested in here. Short-term momentum trades or potential long-term players that could benefit from some of these more sustainable trends that the market is getting excited about, like AR, VR, and AI. So all of these major acronyms and their technologies are definitely things that people are watching. And one of the projects that's going to be leading the way here likely is one of our sponsors for today's video, which is OverTheReality. This is one of the few augmented reality and virtual reality metaverse projects in the crypto space that is going to be compatible with the new VR and AR goggles that are going to be coming out here on June 5th, later on today from Apple. So that is really exciting news. And for those of you who haven't heard about the project just yet, it is not only going to be one of the first compatible projects with these glasses, but it's been one of the largest metaverse projects in the crypto space over the past couple of months. You can take a look here as well. Again, as I was discussing earlier, the momentum that has come in here since back during mid-May when we got the confirmation that Apple's going to be revealing these glasses. This is again what I mean when I talk about momentum here, guys. I'm not guaranteeing that the project's price is going to go up or anything. I'm not telling you guys you need to go trade or invest in it. It's totally up to you to make those decisions. However, we are seeing momentum come into only particular plays in this market. If you were trading in the altcoin space, if you are trading or building long-term positions that you're hoping are going to outpace Bitcoin, you've got to make sure that the narrative is there. You got to make sure that there's actually going to be demand for those different plays in the long term and expected future growth. Because if you're not, if you're investing in the DeFi sector, if you're investing in the broader NFT space that's not tied towards AI or virtual reality or augmented reality, you're likely going to continue to fall behind so long as those are not the trends. So I definitely recommend you guys keep an eye on projects here like OverTheReality. There are probably going to be many projects that do well in this category, but I think it's definitely one of the largest ones in the space from the research I've done, and I definitely recommend you guys keep an eye on it at a minimum when it comes to the projects that you're tracking. Now, I want to go ahead and talk here a little bit about the AI narrative specifically, because while the AR and VR reality, or sorry, I'm getting my acronyms all messed up. Considering that the augmented reality and virtual reality trend are starting to pick up here potentially with Apple's biggest product reveal probably since the Apple Watch or the AirPods, it's important to understand that the AI narrative is looking a bit overbought. And if the AI narrative is starting to fade here, we got to ask whether or not that this new trend is going to be what's going to hold up asset markets and continue chugging the NASDAQ forward. Because if we look at the kind of more retail-driven stocks here, like C3 AI, which has been kind of the cheaper retail play for people who are trading AI, considering it has AI as its symbol and in its name. I know it seems silly, but that's just what happens here in manias and bubbles. You can't fight it. You got to know that this is how it plays out. Well, we had a massive deviation here, up 33% on May 30th, followed by a correction downward back here to where it was on June 2nd here, going back towards its price on May 25th. And if we take a look at NVIDIA here, all right, NVIDIA, while it had its major gap up, is starting to enter into this kind of chop phase up here, not making much progress in price. And the question is, can this really continue? At $1 trillion market cap, NVIDIA is trading at a massive PE multiple, even if you're looking at forward priced earnings multiples, right? And this is a question of whether or not the AI trend and the generative AI craze is really all that it's coughed up to be. I understand this technology is very cool, but I gotta tell you guys, I have worked with ChatGPT since it came out. I was an early subscriber to the tool. I still pay for it. It's a cool tool nonetheless, but it's not this magical miracle tool that is going to absolutely transform everything overnight. We've had it for multiple months here. And if you take a look at the data, which we covered in this month's newsletter, there is a lot of worrying signs here around the AI buzz and how much people are overestimating the demand for GPUs. If you guys are interested to learn more about that, I definitely recommend you guys check out the Dash report down below in the description. It is our monthly newsletter where you guys will not only get access towards things like our momentum indicator that we showcase, the red and blue indicator we talk about here on the channel, but on top of that, you'll get a 20+ page report where we cover crypto, stocks, commodities, and Forex. You'll get access to the Dash report discussion group where you can talk with other quality Dash report members, hundreds of our best cream of the crop users here within our ecosystem. And outside of that as well, you'll get my trade alerts and mid-month webinars, as well as exclusive market updates when we find valuable information we want to share to just exclusively Dash report members. But that's it for today's video, guys. I want you guys to walk away thinking about a couple key things here. Can we see Bitcoin starting to outpace the Nasdaq, or at a minimum in the near term holding this level here? And if we can, I think it's best to be prepared about whether being prepared essentially with your portfolio in order to make sure that you've got that diverse exposure, or that you've got cash on the sidelines waiting for a better dip opportunity. I'm curious if you guys think, and I'd love to hear in the comments down below, whether or not you think that the AR/VR trend is going to be a real thing here, if this is going to be able to sustain itself and be just as big as AI long term. I know we've had a lot of prior momentum back in the past with Meta when they announced the company's transition towards focusing on this category. And I'd love to hear whether or not you guys feel that the AI trend itself is going to be able to sustain itself. I know a lot of people in crypto are focusing solely on crypto, but we got to view the whole picture, guys. And if you guys like this kind of rambling here, consider dropping a like. It's one of the greatest ways you can support the channel. But that being said, everyone, check out the Dash report down below in the description. Check out OverTheReality as well. We've got links down below. Until the next video, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all on Wednesday for the next daily update. Take care, everyone.